Welcome students. I am Professor Naval Kishore from School of Management Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. You have learnt about organizational structure, significance, types of organizational structure. Today, I am going to discuss about principles of organization. As you all are aware that structuring the organization play very significant role in enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of the whole organization. Therefore, there are certain principles which require to be followed while organizing the whole organization. These principles are first is unity of objectives. The organization is created for the achievement of certain goals, and every department or the whole organization they formulate, they develop objectives for accomplishment. Therefore, the effort of the organization should be directed in such a way that the objectives of the organization is being achieved, is being attained. The organizational objectives should be in tune with the personal performance objective of the employee. Because once the group of employees, they are striving, they are making effort for the attainment of the objectives of the organization, there would be unity of objectives, because every employee of that organization, they are trying to achieve that very objectives which has been well defined by the organization. This unity facilitates all the employees to make their effort in that particular direction. Division of work and specialization. As you all are aware that in every organization the work is being divided in a small chunk so that the performance of that activities may be facilitated. For example, if it is a manufacturing organization, in that case, you have somewhere inputs, that is raw materials. Somebody would be handling that raw materials. You may have some processing units. Somebody may be involved in the actual processing of the raw materials. Somewhere you may have the final output. Somebody may be involved in handling of that final output, that is maybe packaging, etc., etc. Like that, somebody may be involved in selling those goods to the clients or marketing that goods. Now, all these small chunks, when these activities are being performed by the person, now the person involved in executing, in carrying out those activities, they get specialized in that particular activities. Now once they get specialized in performing that particular activities, it becomes easier for the organization, because that enhances the efficiency of the whole organization. Next, definition of jobs. See, every job may be or should be well defined, because there are several activities which are going simultaneously in an organization. Therefore, there may be probability of overlapping of the jobs. In order to avoid that overlapping of the jobs, you need to define the job in such a way that person involved in carrying out that job, it must be very clear to that person that he or she is going to carry out this particular job. Next, separation of line and staff functions. As you all are aware that line functions are the prime function of the organization. For example, manufacturing unit, for example, marketing unit. See, if you see the manufacturing unit, in that case, the whole range of authority, accountability, reporting systems moves in a particular hierarchy. There may be manager, there may be deputy manager, there may be supervisor, there may be first line, that is foreman, there may be the shop floor employees, that is the workers involved in that process. So these are the line. That means if there is any order that starts from the manager and goes up to the shop floor worker. Now, in order to facilitate the line activities, the line functions, there are also staff functions involved in that particular organization. For example, the functions related to finance, the function related to maintenance of the machines, the functions related to legal activities, all these activities fall under staff functions, and these functions are very much helpful in carrying out the line functions of the organization. Therefore, there should be very clear-cut understanding about the line functions and staff functions to all the employees who are involved in carrying out particular activities. Next, chain of command or scalar principle. See, one important matter always comes into the picture, that who is authorized to do what? Who is going to be accountable to whom? Who is going to report whom? Now, for this purpose, there is an authority and responsibility involved in the organization. Authority involves right to decide, direct and coordinate as well as control. Now, when there is a big organization, you need to decentralize the authority as well as the command. Because if you see the authority, in that case, if in an organization, if chief executive officer is there, general manager may be there, departmental manager may be there, deputy manager may be there, again there may be supervisor, again there may be foreman, again there may be shop floor worker. Now, when the authority flow from top to bottom, it creates a sort of scalar chain. Therefore, it is called chain of command. That means the whole range of delegation of authority may be done based on the whole organization structure, because you need to have a clear-cut understanding of every department and the activities involved in that department, position created in that department, and the relationship, authority and relationship involved in carrying out a particular job. So in that way, this chain of command is created, and based on that chain of command, there is a probability that the functioning of that organization may be facilitated, and ultimately the activities or that functions becomes efficient as well. Next is parity of authority and responsibility, or principle of correspondence. Now, as you all are aware that authority and responsibility should move hand in hand. They move simultaneously, because if somebody is authorized to carry out some activities or some functions of that organization, he or she also should be responsible for that particular job. Therefore, if the manager is authorized to get the work done, the manager is also responsible for that work. For example, if you have the shop floor manager, now if shop floor manager is there, and if there is a problem of the machine, that machine requires to be repaired immediately, he should have that authority to get it repaired immediately. He need not wait for the approval of the head office, because if he waits for the approval of the head office, the work may suffer. The production of that particular department may suffer. Therefore, he should be authorized to carry out that particular functions for which he has been, or for which he is expected to perform that particular activity. Next is unity of command. See, in an organization, people should report to one supervisor. He need not report to many supervisors, because if he does so, there may be confusion or conflict in that organization. Therefore, he should report to one supervisor, because everybody should have one boss. If he has many bosses, it becomes very difficult to carry out the activities or the work of that particular department. So, the unity of command, he is getting the instruction from one boss that provides clear-cut understanding of that particular job, the way that job requires to be performed, the way that job has to be performed, and how that job has to be performed, etc., etc. He gets clear-cut direction from his boss. Next is unity of direction. There should be one head and one plan in an organization, because the direction which somebody receives, that should be one person direction, that is the manager's direction in a group of the employees, in a group of the person. There should not be direction from many persons. If there is any unity of direction in an organization, in that case, what happens, the persons who are involved in carrying out that activities, he or she will get deduction from one person. As a result, that work may get done efficiently. There would be less probability of conflict, chaos, etc. Next is exception principle. As you all are aware that the managerial level persons, they are involved in the whole range of activities of planning, directing, leading, policy formulation, that is primarily policy based or higher level creative activities are there, and therefore they are involved in those things. If there are some routine activities which are being carried out in an organization or in a particular department, those routine activities may be handled at that particular department level. For example, if manufacturing activities are there, then in that case at the shop level that can be resolved. Only the important functions, only the important issues may be brought before the manager, so that they are more involved in the policy making sort of the things, broader aspect of the organization, and the routine activities may be carried out at the shop floor itself. Next is a span of supervision. As you all are aware that everybody has capacity to supervise a particular number of the persons in a particular group, because if the number is more, obviously the supervision may be very difficult, and supervision play a very significant role because the activities required to be supervised, so that the quality of that activity is maintained and the performance should also tally the standard which has been already devised by that organization. So therefore, that requires proper supervision at every level, and the organization should decide, depending upon the nature of the work, depending upon the supervision required, they should devise a method so that the number of the persons to be supervised, that should be based on the requirement of the supervision in that particular activities. Next, principle of balance. As you all know that in an organization there may be several departments or there may be several activities also. In that case, you need to maintain a balance in your own department, as well as you need to make a balance among the departments also, because there may be certain activities which may cut across the board. That means that activities may fall in various departments also. So there may be the requirement of making a balance in your department, as well as from the, if the work is of the multi-departmental type of the work, then you need to make balance among the departments as well. Next is communication. Now the flow of communication is very important. The network of communication is very important in an organization, because when any order is there, when any manual is there, when any the performance of the work related things are there, performance of the evaluation is there, all those things requires to be communicated properly from the top to the bottom in an organization. So the communication network facilitates the person to understand the work, to understand the reporting system, to understand the commanding system, to understand the directive system, and accordingly the employees becomes aware and they perform their activity. Next, flexibility. As you all know that change is the way of life. Most of the time you find in an organization the technology keeps on changing. External environment is very flexible, that keeps on changing. Now the various activities in an organization that keeps on changing along with the technology. As an organization, you need to be dynamic. Your organization need to be dynamic so that organization also they make the opportunity to adjust themselves according to requirement of the external situation. The flexibility helps the organization to imbibe those change, to accommodate those change, to adjust based on those changes so that they become suitable in the changing external environment. They are maybe in a position to cope up with those changes. Next, continuity. As far as continuity is concerned, you all know that this organization has a long-term perspective. It is not that the very short term, that something you achieve and go to the next. It has a long-term perspective. When the organization has long-term perspective, in that case, the activities are continuous activities. So in the continuous activities, the department, the managers, the employees, all those are carrying out the activities on the continuous basis. That is on the long-term perspective. So because it has that continuity, therefore there may be probability of better growth of that organization. They do not think only about the short term, they are having the long-term perspective. Therefore, it's a continuous effort for making organization better and better. So you have understood about the principles of organization, and you know these principles are the guidelines for the organization. If you follow these principles, and according to these principles, if you formulate the whole range of the activities of the organization, there is a probability that the activities or the job to be performed in that organization may move very smoothly and they may get it done, you may get the job done very efficiently. Because everything would be well structured. You know that who is going to command what, you know where from you get the direction, you very much know whom to be reported, and if all these aspects are clear-cut, defined in an organization, and organization also follow the process of becoming a dynamic and long-term perspective organization. When you are dynamic, you also adjust according to requirement of the organization. You cope up with the changing external environment so that your organization performs in a much better way. Now, following these principles, all these aspects may be carried out smoothly. Thank you very much.